Comerica community rock stars. What it do? Yes, good morning. I'm on, right? Yes, you can all hear me. There it is. Yes, good morning. Oh my goodness, you all. I am so excited. I'm so honored and I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you in this beautiful space, seeing faces, seeing smiles. Y'all, I gotta keep it real. Nowadays, given everything that we've been through over these past few years, whenever my feet can hit a physical stage, I just don't know what to do. I just get so excited. But y'all probably feel me, right? It's probably getting back together in person, feeling that authentic connection with one another. It feels great, right? You get hype. Yes? Yeah, so I want to play off that. And I know that Jamie already got y'all up dancing, but I want to go through a two-part hype session to keep that energy going. All right? Now, for those of y'all looking at me worried right now, don't be worried, okay? This is going to be easy. Everybody can do this, okay? But for this first part, I'd like you all to stand up. If you're able, please stand. Step away from your lunch for a little bit. Put down your mimosas, your Bloody Marys. Okay. All right, cool. So for this first part, again, very simple, okay? But I want everybody to raise your right hand. Yes. Now raise your left hand. Yes. Now give me a wave. Give me a wave. Now give me a little shimmy. Give me a little shake. Give me a woo. Yes. All right, yes. What's your name right here? Kristen was like this. Kristen was just getting it, just moving to the side. I love it. All right, everybody have a seat. Hype session part one complete. You've all passed with flying colors, especially Kristen. I'm taking it. I'm taking those dance moves. I love it. Now, the second part is also very simple, but we're going to use our vocal cords, all right? So make sure your mouths are free of your lunch because we're going to use the vocal cords, all right? So on the count of three, I want everyone in here to shout as loudly as you can, yeah! And I want, on the count of three, y'all are hype already. On the count of three, everybody give your best yeah. You ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Woo! Y'all sure y'all not drinking yet? Are there mimosas? Are there Bloody Marys? I love it. Well, again, I'm so excited, so grateful to be here with all of you. And thank you to the planners, to the organizers for the opportunity and allowing me to engage with you all in this way. Well, as you probably already gleaned from my time with you this morning, I'm going to be talking about something that every single person on the planet has gotten a lot closer to over these past few years. And that is change. But I'm going to be talking about the chemistry, the feelings, the emotions of change, and how to harness the power of that energy to fuel your growth through any change and any disruption. But before I dive in, I want to offer a couple things, all right? One is my commitment to all of you, and next is an ask that I have of you. All right, so let me start with my commitment. Each and every one of you are taking time out of what I know is a very busy and hectic schedule, time to share with me and the rest of your colleagues. And so I want to make sure that I'm adding value for that time, sharing some new perspective, some new way of thinking about things that's going to help you in your day-to-day starting tomorrow. That's my commitment to you. Next is the ask I have of you, all right? So we already went through a hype session. Y'all been up dancing, saying yeah. And so I'll just ask you to keep that energy up. Let's stay present. Let's stay engaged. We're going to have some fun polling that we're going to do. So let's just stay present and engage as we move through this. Cool? Is that something y'all can do? Yeah. All right, cool. So I've had the great honor and pleasure of not only giving a lot of presentations, but I've also been an attendee at a lot of different meetings and conferences all over the world. And for me, as an attendee, whenever I see somebody I don't know walk up on a stage, my first thought is always, who is this person? And why do I care to listen to them? It never fails. Even if I just heard their bio, I'm always thinking to myself, how long am I to give this person my attention before I start multitasking, maybe even stepping out of the conference room to get some work done, right? So as I stand here, one of your guest keynote presenters, I'm not going to be naive enough and thinking that there aren't at least 80% of y'all thinking something very similar about me right now in this moment. And that's okay. That's okay. Because what I want to do to start is share a little bit more about myself and my background, but notably what drives my passion, my dedication, and my expertise around this whole idea of mastering the chemistry, the emotions of change to fuel growth. Well, as you did hear, I spent several years working in more traditional roles of corporate America, leveraging my degree in chemical engineering. And it was all in the consumer packaged goods industry, and predominantly at Procter & Gamble. So I have led organizations responsible for delivering innovation to some of the biggest brands and some of the largest markets in the world. As a chemical engineer, I got to do the product design, the process innovation, manufacturing reliability, and it was a really fun and rewarding career. But it was a career that was riddled in dealing with significant shift and change. From thriving in the face of multi-billion-dollar acquisitions, to leading the cultural integrations of those businesses, to delivering business results across many different regions and cultures all over the world. But, before even stepping foot at P&G, before day one of my professional career, I had been uniquely groomed for change. Groomed for change and how to handle all the emotional complexity that comes with it. I want to time warp us, all right? I want to take us back. I want to take us back to 1981. 1981 was a good year. Hopefully y'all know, I see somebody dancing in the audience. I see you, okay. Yes, there were two events of significance that happened in 1981. The first, and by far most significant, my birth. Yes, that's right, 1981, I was welcomed into the world. Now you would have no idea with all the bliss and serenity on that face that my mom had just endured about 14 hours of labor in making this happen. My mom rocks, all right? She's a rock star. Now, the second event of significance was also a birth of sorts, and that was the birth of the millennial generation. Yeah, that's right, 1981 is the year that most generational experts claim to be year one or ground zero of the millennials. And I'm curious, is anyone else an 81 baby, or you know anyone close to you? Okay, 81, I see you. Now, even though we're starting to hear language like generational cuspers for those of us born at the end of one generation and the start of the next, I like to tell people that I'm like a front runner of the millennials. Yes, this sounds snazzy, right? Like I'm winning. Although, how many of y'all in here have siblings? How many have siblings? Ooh, a lot of y'all. Okay, how many of y'all have siblings that you actually like? Okay, still about 85%. I like it. Well, I also have siblings that I both love and like, but they use very different language for me. They call me the grandmother of the millennials, which, it's not kind. It's not snazzy language. It's not, I hear you laughing. It's not what I like to think of myself. I say I'm a front runner of this generation. But what does this mean, right? I was literally born on a generational scene, on the divide between Gen X and Gen Y. So growing up, coming into adulthood, learning how to interact with the world, the medium used to do so, the way in which we connect and communicate with another human being was constantly changing, right? As we're entering the digital age, the age of technology. So if somebody had sat me down and told me that not only was I gonna have to deal with all the changes that would happen to my body, but also changes in the fundamental way that I connect with another human being, my face would have looked more like this dude's, right? Because let's think about this, right? So in grade school, if I want to connect with kids in the classroom, I'm hand passing notes. There were no text messages. I'm making sure they're nicely folded so no one can read them, yes? Now I'm doing this until I got my very first pager. How many of y'all remember a beeper? Who wore them? Yes! Y'all, I started tucking my shirt in when I got a beeper so everybody can see how cool I was. Yes! Now for those of us who remember the pagers, what are we doing when our hips start vibrating? Where are we going? We're going to a payphone, yes? Back and forth to the payphone banks. Now I'm doing this until I got my first taste of the computer and the internet and very quickly got hooked to this guy. Who remembers AOL? You've got mail. I stayed up late in these chat rooms, chatting with whoever I thought was online, whatever that meant. I didn't know what it meant. I just knew I was having fun. Now I'm doing this until I got my very first cell phone. The straight block Nokia, able to connect with anyone that I knew simply by reaching my hand in my pocket. Now, y'all know these cell phones have learning curves, right? So as soon as I had mastered that straight block Nokia, I got my second cell phone. And then I got my third cell phone. And then I got my fourth cell phone. And then I got my fifth cell phone. And of course, by this time, the phone's smarter than I am. So it's outfitted with all the social media apps. So I'm rocking Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm rocking Facebook. And these learning curves have continued all the way to my current cell phone. Y'all don't judge me. You know the drama is real, the struggle is real. In fact, how many in here are rocking a crack in their screen right now? Yeah, oh my goodness, there's a lot of y'all. We need to join a help group. My goodness, we're doing too much. Now, I'm sharing all this to say, not just so we all can lament over cracked screen drama, but I'm sharing this to say that through the course of growing up, coming into adulthood, I have learned adaptability, resilience, and perseverance. Adaptability, resilience, and perseverance. And so I stand here in front of you today, a firm believer that if adaptability, resilience, and perseverance can be learned, then it can be taught. And it can be taught short of going through these decades of life experience. And that's what this morning's session is all about. I'm going to share a strategy with you that will enable your own unique signature of adaptability, resilience, and perseverance to shine. And I got to say, the time for all of you to express that signature has never been near. In fact, it is here, right now, for each and every one of you in the room. You know, I know there's a lot of different businesses and industries represented in the room, and all of you having incredible careers, then will continue having incredible careers. And that means that none of you are immune to change, to disruption, to transformation, whether that be getting a new manager, whether that be taking a new role, maybe getting into a new function, building your business for those entrepreneurs out there, maybe being assigned new responsibilities with no additional resources to help you deliver it, right? And so with all of that change that you're certain to experience as you continue to flourish in your careers, I'm certain there'll be room for the difficult part of change and the emotions that riddle it, the frustration, the fear, the anger, the anxiety, those really difficult emotions. So now is the time to learn how to harness the power of that emotion, that energy, to fuel your growth. And not just the growth of your incredible business, but the growth of you as an individual, as an innovator, as a leader. And that's what this session is all about. I'm going to share a strategy with you that will enable you to be change ready moving forward, seeing opportunity in change. A strategy that when you can practice it on a consistent basis, it's going to give you a sense of excitement and enthusiasm for every big change, every disruption, every transformation that you face, that you execute, that you have to lead. And a strategy that's ultimately going to enable you to become a point of inspiration to your teams, your organizations, and even your clients. Does that sound like something that y'all can get down with? Does that sound like something that's relevant? Are y'all awake? Can I get a yeah? All right then, let's get into the good stuff, right? So this strategy, this is a growth mindset, and one that I've coined change enthusiasm. You know, so often when we're leading and executing through change, we're told, you have a growth mindset, have a mindset of growth. But seldomly are we told, how do we do that? How do you practice that on a daily basis? And that's what I'm striving to deliver in Change Enthusiasm. So for those of you looking up at the screen sideways like, okay, how is this any different from being a change agent or a change optimist? She just put in a little cute word at the end of change with no real meat behind it. Well, if you're thinking that, you couldn't be further from the truth. Because this is actually a workable strategy. And it's a strategy that's worked through the practice of 3 simple steps. And those steps are the signal, the opportunity, and the choice. All right, and think of it like a traffic light. The red light being the signal, the yellow light being the opportunity, and the green light being the choice. The signal, the opportunity, and the choice. Thank you all so much, it's been amazing. Of course I'm kidding, I joke with you. No, I'm actually gonna unpack this. I'm actually gonna share a story with you on how I came to cultivate it and put it into practice in my own life. But before I do, I want y'all to engage with me, all right? So I feel the energy, y'all are hyping this room, and I wanna keep that going as I go through this. So by show of hands, who in here has seen the movie Psycho? Either the original or the remake. Ooh, a lot of y'all like horror movies, I like it. Now, for those of y'all still looking at me sideways, trust, this is not where the presentation takes a horrible turn left, okay? Everyone's fine, everything's safe. But for those of you who have seen that movie, do you remember that one scene in the film? It's probably the most memorable scene of the whole movie, the shower scene. You know that really chilling, stabbing music that they play? Rink, 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 rink. Yes? Y'all remember that? So listen, when I point to you, when I do this motion, I want everyone in here to do your loudest and best rendition of that chilling, stabbing music, okay? Now we all about to practice this because I don't want to be the only one up here looking silly, okay? So on the count of 3, everyone, loudest and best, rink, rink, okay? Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I love it. Oh, I got chills every time. So remember, when I point to you as I'm telling the story, that's the energy, that's the motion that I want you to give. And also, disclaimer, y'all just keep your hands to yourself. I see some of y'all stabbing and it's getting rogue when you just keep it contained. All right, here we go, story time. So my very first major change challenge in my professional life came after I've been working at Procter & Gamble for about 3.5, 4 years. And I transitioned into a recently acquired business. Now, this was a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, so it was a really big deal. And upon transferring, I was told I was being brought in not only to help continue delivering breakthrough innovation, but also to help integrate parent company tools and processes into that technical community. Now, I was naive and thinking this is going to be something similar to work I'd done in the past, right? I'm a rock star. I created tools, brought them to life in other businesses in that parent company. But day one, I walked into a completely different business culture. The language was different. The behaviors were different. The cultural norms were different, right? Those common norms that I had grown so accustomed to and that had served me so well up until that point just did not exist. And on top of that, despite my very best intentions, the use of those tools and processes that I was supposed to bring to life in that business was met with what I'll call great adversity. I was lost, I was frustrated, and I felt like a fish out of water. And then to add insult to injury, I discovered one day that a colleague of mine had shared my data, my results, my conclusions and recommendations with senior leadership, not only without me being in the room, but without even acknowledging that it was all my work. And upon hearing this, of course, I shared it with my immediate manager, and they just simply brushed it off, said, don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal. Yes, that noise, this is the signal, this is the first step. It's these feelings, these emotions. I felt so frustrated with my colleague. I felt so angry with my manager because day one at Procter in that culture, you were taught the importance of your pie. Pie meaning performance, image, and exposure. And so here someone was stealing slices of my pie and my manager could care less. So with every passing day, I was becoming more and more disengaged in my work and really looking for an opportunity to escape. And that's what the signal denotes. It's these really difficult emotions, the fear, the frustration, the anger, the anxiety, the feelings you just want to run away from, the feelings you just want to escape. In fact, given all of you and your careers and everything that you're moving through in your businesses, I'm certain some of you have felt some of these emotions, maybe even recently as it relates to your work. And if you have, I want you to turn to your neighbor right now, and I want you to say, good gracious, yes. Yes, we've been there, right? Y'all laughing? Y'all telling stories? All right, yes, we've all been there, I know, yes? Now let me say this. For all of you who just turned to your neighbor and shouted in their ear, good gracious, yes, let me be the first to say, congratulations. You got the signal. And it means something very big is happening for you. Well, you know, for me, back then, I was like all of you in the room. I hadn't yet created, let alone started to practice this whole mindset of change enthusiasm. So I was left to sink in that mental downward spiral. The brightest part of my day was lunch because I would sit with a handful of other parent company colleagues who had transitioned in, and we would vent, we would commiserate, we would talk about how horrible things were. I was very quickly reaching a breaking point and really looking for any opportunity to escape. Well, in a last-ditch effort, I decided to reach out to a mentor. Now, she was a director at the time, and she was Heritage Parent Company. So in my mind, she was the solution to right every wrong in my work experience. Because not only was she in a position of influence, but she also would have the capacity to understand where I was coming from, unlike my line management. So, you know, I got on her calendar, got together an agenda, got together what I felt to be 3 very actionable help requests. Although, y'all know hindsight's 20/20, right? Hindsight 20/20. So in hindsight, those help requests might have well have read, number 1, fire this dude. Number 2, fire my manager. And number 3, promote me so I can fire these other 8 people I'm struggling with. Y'all don't judge me, you know, I was younger. Regardless, we met, you know, I'm talking to the help request. Really, by the end, I'm just venting to this woman. And as I'm wrapping up, she looks at me and she says, Cassandra, I want to offer you some advice. You can either get bitter or you can get better. It's your choice. Woo, you talk about signaling emotions. Now, of course, I responded in kind, thank you very much. But as I'm getting up and leaving her office, I'm fuming, and I'm thinking to myself, my choice? It's not my choice. I'm not the one in a position of influence. It's her, not me. And she wasn't listening to me. And so I made the decision that I was going to keep looking for any way to escape. And I was actually going to quit. I was going to quit that company. But then something happened. Those words that she said, bitter or better, they stayed with me. And over the next several days, I started to embrace this idea that I had power, that I had control and say over my own work experience. And the more that I stepped into that idea, I stepped into a major moment of opportunity. Step 2. I had just reached step 2 of the strategy of change enthusiasm, that yellow light. In fact, this is a good place for me to take a quick aside and get to know y'all a little bit better, all right? So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to picture yourselves in your car, you're driving, you approach a traffic light and it turns yellow, okay? And I want you to signal to me what is your behavior. Y'all are already acting up. This is gonna be bad, I know. I want you to signal to me what is your behavior when you're behind the wheel and the light turns yellow, okay? So I want you to give me a 1. I want you to give me a 1 if you're slowing down. Safety first. Okay, ones. I like that. Safety first, seatbelts on. Okay. Now give me a 2 if you're flooring it, because you got places. What's your name right here, man? What's your name? Yes, you. Gigi. Gigi was like, I know that's my response. I don't need to know. Number 3. I'm coming back to you, Gigi. I see you. All right, you keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Now give me a 3 if it depends. If it depends. Okay, so I see some 3s. Some of y'all sticking with your 2s. In fact, Gigi, talk to me. Gigi, what kind of car do you drive? What kind of car do you drive? A Mercedes. Okay. What color is it? Yeah, I understand. What color is your Mercedes? Black. When y'all are leaving the conference, just look out for a black Mercedes. We don't know what Gigi's doing behind the wheel. I'm kidding with you, I'm kidding. No, but you know what ultimately we're doing in that time? We're in a decision-making process, right? A decision-making process, weighing options. How much distance do I have between me and the light? How fast am I going? Are there any squirrels or children that I don't want to run over, right? And really, what are we thinking? I don't know about Gigi and his Benz, but what are we thinking? Are there cops? What's really going to be the consequence if I run it, right? But this is ultimately a decision-making process. You're weighing options. And that's exactly what step 2 of the strategy of change enthusiasm is all about, right? You've recognized your feelings as a signal. You've accepted their invitation into your moment of opportunity to learn, to grow, to evolve, weighing options on how to milk that opportunity for all it's got. Yeah? So for me, back then, having let those words of wisdom marinate, bitter or better, I saw a couple options. I could either remain resigned, despising going into the office, resenting the majority of my colleagues, basically in a state of misery, looking for any opportunity to escape, or I could choose to trust that despite their behavior, they had my best interests at heart, the one that shared my results, because that was really the behavior that gave me the worst feelings. But I could choose to trust that despite their behavior, they were not acting maliciously. And the more that I leaned into making that decision, I started to get a different feeling, right? I started to feel intrigued. Because if not acting maliciously, then why? Why would they have done the things that they did? But in that moment, intrigue felt better than resentment. And intrigue successfully created a path for me to re-engage in my work. So that's what I did. I made a conscious, productive choice to bring about a better feeling and ultimately a better result, right? That's step 3, the choice. You've recognized your feelings as a signal. You've accepted their invitation into your moment of opportunity to learn, to grow and evolve, weighing options. And then from those options, making a conscious, productive choice to inspire a better feeling and ultimately a better result. The signal, the opportunity, and the choice. So what, right? So what happened? I always like to share what happened as a result of me cultivating this mindset and really practicing it on a daily basis. Well, at first, it just looked like me engaging with my colleagues in a different way, right? Seeking first to understand, but ultimately I was inspired. I was inspired to write a series of intercompany articles that I called my diaries. And the intent was to share where I thought there was true strength in that business that needed to get reapplied and where I thought there were opportunities to improve. And for one of those articles, I decided to interview several of my working team colleagues, including the one that I thought wronged me. And I asked questions like, what are you most proud of? And how do you think your functional expertise can not only explode results in this business unit, but also other businesses around the parent company? And in having these conversations, I discovered the fundamental differences in cultural norms across those two companies. And come to find out, that colleague wasn't acting maliciously. They were just abiding by a different set of cultural norms. And having these conversations, it was so eye-opening and healing for me. And when I published them out, I just wanted one person. I wanted one person to read them and feel the sense of healing that I felt, because I knew I wasn't the only one struggling in that culture. You know what happened? It was wild. It was crazy what happened. So that article in particular, the one with the interviews, became in the top 3 most widely read in the entire company for several weeks in a row. I think when it was all said and done, it had like over 6,000 reads. Now, let me calibrate y'all. So up until this point, I was lucky if I got like 100 reads on a report. So this is a really big deal. I had colleagues stopping me in the hallway, thanking me for writing their reports, saying how my words had helped nurture much needed dialogue between them and their working team colleagues. But you know what the best part was? The best part of taking control of my own work experience, reaching for that better and better. I went to a women's networking event, and we had also invited a speaker in, and it was the president of that business. And during his talk, he pointed me out in front of everybody. He was like, "You're Cassandra, right?" And of course, I'm looking at this dude like a deer in headlights. I had no idea he knew who I was. He's like, "You're Cassandra, right?" He said, "I want to thank you for writing those reports." He said, "Although there were a couple points I didn't necessarily agree with, I want to thank you for the courage it took to write them." And then he got really honest with me and the rest of the group. He said their most glaring mistake in the acquisition and the integration was not recognizing and fully embracing the differences in cultural norms. But he said it was perspectives like mine that was helping he and his senior leadership team understand where the tension points lied so that they could create plans to address them. As a junior engineer in that company, I'd effectively influenced the culture of the organization from bottom to top, simply by taking control of my own work experience, reaching for that better and better feeling. Now, y'all please don't get me wrong, this was not all caterpillars and sunflower seeds. It wasn't all good. Flowers, daisies, I need to learn that saying. It wasn't all good. I continued having challenges in that business. And at any given point in time, a better feeling might have looked like stress, because stress felt better than depression. A better feeling might have looked like intrigue, because intrigue felt better than resentment. Yeah? Is it making sense, the signal, the opportunity, and the choice? And listen, by working this mindset, I ended up getting myself top rated in that business and landing a growth opportunity I would not have had I not transitioned into that business. So the more that you can embrace this mindset, practice it on a daily basis, you're going to come to find that the really big changes, the really big disruptions, they never happen to you, they happen for you, to serve your evolution to your very best self, enabling you to be that rock star leader that I know you all have within. And it works. I've been doing this for almost 2 decades now, and it works. And I've seen the data replicated not only in my own personal experience, but now with clients and individuals all over the world. But what I want to do now is do a bit of a pivot. So my mom is a retired French teacher, and she never lets me forget we all learn differently, right? Different modalities. So I'm curious, I just want to take a pulse of the audience. Give me a 1 if you're more of an audio learner. So you like to listen to podcasts, you're listening to videos. Okay, a couple of those. Give me a 2 if you're a visual learner. You got to see it. You're taking notes. A lot of visuals. I love it. And then give me a 3 if it's more experiential. You got to get your hands in there to know it. I love it. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to paint the picture of change enthusiasm in a very visual way. And shout out to all the visual learners out there. But I want to do it in a way that hopefully will help everyone begin to digest this a little bit better. And I want to share some tips and tricks on how you can begin employing this in your day-to-day. All right, so let's paint the picture of change enthusiasm. So the first thing that happens in the practice of this mindset is there's some type of a change event, like giving a new manager, advancing to a new role, giving new responsibilities, or a global pandemic. And that usually sets us off on a path. And the first things we typically face on that path are what I call the signal emotions of change. And those are fear, frustration, anger, anxiety, and grief. And it's in this first step that you're acknowledging, allowing these emotions to flow, not suppressing, not ignoring them, not hiding them. And this is really about knowing you, right? How does fear manifest through my body? What does anger and frustration look like? Like for me, I knew I was angry and frustrated when I was in that business almost every day because of the hair standing up on the back of my neck and my elevated heart rate in almost every meeting. But in that knowing, I was able to explore the thoughts, bringing my awareness into that emotional energy. Thoughts like, this is not a place where I can grow. My colleagues don't have my back and I have to quit. But in acknowledging and analyzing those thoughts, I was able to create space between my emotional energy and my conscious thinking. And in that space, I could inject trust that these emotions were existing to serve me, to invite me into a moment of opportunity to learn and to grow. And that's the second step, right? Once you've accepted that invitation, you're in your opportunity. How can I grow in this moment? How can I learn more about myself? How can I learn about my peers, my business, my colleagues, my industry? What can I learn so that this can work for me and not against me? And then once you have those options, you're making a choice, right? The third step. And this is really where the magic happens. Through the power of choice, we can begin to transform that signal emotional energy into what I call the growth sustaining emotions of change. It's like transforming anxiety of the negative implications into anticipation of how much you'll learn and how you'll grow. Transforming fear of the unknown into hope of all the good that's in store. Now, I know it is a very rare breed that can move all the way from anxiety to anticipation. I can't even do that. But that's not what this is about. It's about making those small micro choices through the day to slowly change our energetic signature, such that that energy works for us and not against us. And this is certainly not about blind or toxic positivity. It's about recognizing, acknowledging the difficult emotions that change often inspires us, and then understanding how can you use that as fuel, as energy to move you forward, becoming better today than you were yesterday. But here's the reality, right? My reality, your reality. You're going to face an infinite amount of change in both your personal and your professional careers, right? Infinite. And that's going to invite you right back into this first step, inspired by your signal emotions, allowing you to practice these steps over and over. This is a practice. It's not a one and done. In the face of every signal emotion, you're recognizing, okay, these emotions are here. I'm in a moment of opportunity. How can I grow in this moment? How can I choose to lead, to inspire, to show up, to become better for my teams and for myself moving forward? And the more revolutions you can make, the more times you're practicing these steps in the face of every signal emotion, you're literally going to be rewiring the chemistry of your brain and building your resilience muscle. I am a firm believer that resilience is not anything that we're born with. It has to be ripped and stretched and torn to get built up over time. And we do that through the practice of experiencing change and through the practice of this mindset. And you've all endured and shown so much resiliency over these past few years. And by arming yourselves with this mindset, you can step change that resiliency, moving forward more agile and change ready in the face of every big disruption. And it works. It works. Like I said, I've been doing this for many, many years before I even had language for it. So before I close, I want to offer a couple things. All right. One is my hope, and next is a challenge I have for all of you. So let me start with my hope. Each and every one of you have just heard something different as it relates to change and the emotions of change and change enthusiasm. And just as the third step of that mindset goes, you are all now sitting in the seat of choice. It's up to you. It's up to you whether or not you'll embrace this mindset, recognizing your signal emotions, stepping into your moments of opportunity to grow and learn, and then choosing how you show up, how you navigate, how you move forward. It's up to you. And of course, it's my hope that you'll all choose to say, yeah, to change enthusiasm. Now, for those of you who do, here's my challenge. So you should have already seen a worksheet come up into your conference app. And I just want to highlight a bit of this just to get your minds going and maybe conversations going during the break. I want you to sit in your next day of work, or maybe even now, and think about one change or one aspect of a change that's inviting the strongest signal emotions within you. The most frustration, the most anger, the most fear. And I want you to name it. And then I want you to think of 3 ways that that particular change is inviting you to grow, to learn. Learn about yourself, your likes, your dislikes. Learn about your industry, your business. 3 ways. And then I want you to capture one action you're committed to taking to milking one of those opportunities for all it's got. One action. Now, of course, it's great if you capture more than one action on the worksheet, but anything that you capture, I want you to hold yourselves accountable to actually committing to. And in fact, who's heard the language accountability partner before? Yeah, a lot of y'all. Usually we hear it in the context of the gym, right? It's that person we hate, but we're so grateful for when we're leaving the gym, right? So some point before the conference closes, I want you to find someone to be your accountability partner and get on each other's calendar the next month and talk about what it was like doing those exercises, putting this into practice. What was inspired for you? What came about because of it? Let's hold each other accountable for nurturing the resilience and building this incredible community of Comerica. That's my challenge to each and every one of you. So as you're getting back into your work, into your day-to-day at the close of the conference, and as you embrace something or experience something that inspires those signal emotions, and in that moment, when the easy choice is to disengage, when the easy choice is to just keep doing things the way you've always done them, in that moment, what will you choose? Bitter or better? Thank you all so much. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.